It's time to put it all together. We're going to take you from A to Z on how to apply our system with an individual client. There are many benefits for the client with respect to training one-on-one with a personal trainer. They know they're going to be the center of attention, allowing time for individualization, motivation, and flexibility. From the coach's standpoint, personal training allows us to cultivate deeper relationships with our clients while giving them more time and attention. With one-on-one, we also have the flexibility to adapt the plan and make adjustments to the plan when needed, which is much easier than in a group setting. Learning objectives. We're going to take you through a hypothetical client interaction through the context of the EXOS Behavior Upgrade Model. We will review evaluations and benchmarking for clients, and we will apply programming implemented within the EXOS training system, showing modifications for different goals. Meet Rick. Rick's story is going to be a simple example of how the EXOS Behavior Upgrade Model can be brought to life. Rick doesn't represent a specific client, but rather represents every client. Rick may have a goal of weight loss, pain reduction, or perhaps he's looking for increased performance. What we know is that Rick has just come in to inquire about one-on-one training programs, has a goal, and meets his future coach, Jenny. Having experience with the EXOS Behavior Upgrade Model, Jenny recognizes her first step is to cultivate intent. It's time for Jenny to leverage her emotional intelligence and motivational interviewing skills to figure out what Rick wants and why he wants it. Understanding that self-awareness, regulation, and motivation enhance social competence and ultimately relationship management, Jenny spends time each week working on her emotional intelligence. She reads self-improvement books and challenges herself to have conversations with random people at the grocery store. This time spent outside of the gym gives her the ability to better understand Rick and meet him where he's at. Jenny begins her consultation by asking Rick open-ended questions, providing affirmations, reflectively listening to his answers, and summarizing what he says. She also shows interest in Rick as a person. She asks about his family, his job, and even asks what a typical day is like in the life of Rick. Rick begins to feel empowered and safe, allowing him to open up more to Jenny. Through this conversation, Jenny is able to narrow in on goals that are important to Rick. Jenny begins asking questions utilizing Darn C as a framework, looking to elicit change talk. She asked about his desires, reasons, and needs for the goals he has mentioned so she can figure out which goal is most important and realistic for Rick right now. She asks him, "What do you feel is your biggest roadblock? And where do you see yourself in 3 months?" Through their conversation, Rick ultimately makes a commitment statement as he indicates he would like to take the next steps in working with Jenny. Based on the desires, needs, and commitment Rick has for his goal, Jenny uses her experience with frames to make a recommendation. After cultivating intent, the next step is for Jenny to establish a baseline for Rick. Before making her game plan, Jenny completes the appropriate screens and assessment so she knows where Rick is starting. These include anthropometric measurements, a movement screen, strength benchmarking, and a cardiovascular assessment. Once Jenny has all the data she needs, it's time to make an informed game plan. The majority of our clients can fall into one of 3 buckets: pain reduction, weight loss, and performance. Let's look at ways to adjust for each of these goals. For all types of clients' needs, including Rick's, we should create a game plan using scaffolding process goals. Our game plan should keep our member in flow and mitigate emotional risk. In Rick's case, his first process goal is to simply come and see Jenny 2 times per week in the gym. It might seem like a small goal, but it's all about context. Rick wasn't working out at all before he came to see Jenny. Asking him to come 3 or 4 times per week could have him setting himself up for failure. Also, Rick has a hectic schedule. He's a business owner. Since he sometimes forgets appointments, Jenny has him set a reminder on his phone. Having a system to rely upon, Jenny can look at how the system components are all intertwined to provide Rick the guidance he needs. While the components remain the same, the application of them and the emphasis on each varies based on the goals. Let's look at 3 example programs, each tailored to a different goal that Rick or someone else could have. Let's say Rick comes in with chronic knee pain. Jenny realizes that she needs to shift from her typical script of having pillar prep and movement prep set the table for the main course, which is usually strength and ESD. She makes the main course pillar prep and movement prep to meet Rick where he is at in his journey to decrease his knee pain and improve his health. Here's how Jenny can adjust her movement program accordingly. For pillar prep, Rick will spend 20 minutes on soft tissue work above and below his knee, calf, quad, hamstring, and he'll get his hips. Jenny also works in corrective movement patterns to increase hip and lower limb function. Movements like glute bridges, quad hip flexor stretch, and single leg lowering. In movement prep, she sticks to modified movements that don't involve as much lunging or squatting. Movements like hand walks, knee hugs, and inverted hamstring. She also cuts ballistic movement integration like skipping and quick feet neural activation. She keeps strength basic with a full body split that covers upper and lower pushing and pulling in pain-free ranges of motion at slower velocities. For ESD, Rick's program consists mainly of yellow and green zone work on equipment-based ESD to mitigate the impact on his knee. To finish up, he foam rolls his legs to restore length and jumpstart the recovery process. Here's how the guidelines for a client with pain come to life in an actual session. Go ahead and either hit pause or reference the PDF for a closer look. Let's say Rick has cleared up his knee pain and he is now ready for a new goal, to lose the 15 pounds that he has gained since his knee started hurting 3 years ago. Rick has enjoyed coming in 2 times per week to the gym, and he now realizes how much value it adds to his life. He feels he's ready for 3 times per week. Jenny is now able to shift his program to include more strength in ESD and less extensive pillar prep. Pillar prep is much quicker now. Rick hits his trouble spots, which are tight hips with a ball, and then some activation for hips and shoulders with glute bridges and planking. Movement prep is now run at a quicker pace with less rest between movements. Jenny has also added in more movement integration with marching, skipping, and neural activation. Now Rick's main course becomes strength and ESD. Jenny has added in a power block with strength, and his ESD includes red zone intervals. Here's how those guidelines for a client wanting to lose weight take shape in an actual session. Hit pause or reference the PDF for a closer look. So Rick has decreased his knee pain, and then after 3 months on his new goal, he lost his 15 pounds. He feels like he has his life back. Now he's ready to test out his new body. He used to love to play tennis, but he hasn't played in years. So he joins a league that plays 2 times per week. Now it's time to train for it. Rick is still going to come to the gym 3 times per week, but now Jenny is going to give him more focused strength and ESD work. For his strength, she starts with a push-pull split to give him a more specific stimulus. She also includes medicine ball rotational tosses to enhance his rotational power. In ESD, she is including more specific red zone sprint intervals to prepare Rick for the tennis court. They now go outside and incorporate multi-directional movement and cone drills for his ESD. Here's how those guidelines for a client looking to improve performance come to life in an actual session. Either hit pause or reference the PDF for a closer look. Rick's journey has really come full circle. Jenny knows it's her responsibility to help make it sustainable, a lifestyle, if you will. For that reason, Jenny will help Rick become more autonomous, increase his mastery, and connect with purpose. She will also work to create an environment of relatedness for Rick. As their relationship has developed, Jenny worries less about the instruction and more about the experience. She avoids paralysis by analysis and lets Rick responsibly learn on his own terms, effectively letting Rick stand on his own 2 feet and not solely relying on her coaching. She also gets Rick's feedback and asks for his input on what he enjoys in his training and what he would like to incorporate more and less of in his next phase. Jenny knows showing up at the gym is important for Rick, and she wants him to continually master the skills she is teaching him so he can efficiently meet his goals. During his pain reduction stage, she challenged him to give his wife a massage and have her give him one back. For weight loss, she challenged them to take daily walks together to increase their movement output. For complexity, she incorporated metabolic conditioning into his ESD once per week during his weight loss phase. Incorporating different implements like battling ropes and sandbags challenged Rick physically and mentally. For novelty during his performance stage, she included tennis balls in his ESD. She also started referencing the portions of his program as game, set, match. He had to focus on the game, which was pillar prep and movement prep, in order to win the set, which was strength and power, and ultimately finish the match during ESD. These challenges, progressions, and variability kept Rick's program fresh and increased his level of engagement. Knowing the last piece to increasing determination is purpose, and having developed a relationship with Rick, Jenny puts a relevant quote of the day on the whiteboard for each session. She also crops in a picture of his favorite tennis player, Roger Federer, on his training program. These vivid quotes and images connect back to Rick's underlying intrinsic motivation, thus effectively motivating and reminding Rick why he's putting in the time and effort. Lastly, Jenny promoted relatedness for Rick. She noticed another member at the gym who always has a tennis racket in his gym bag, so she connected them one day at the nutrition bar. She knows that having others with similar goals can provide accountability and encouragement, ultimately helping the journey to be more sustainable and enjoyable. Jenny knows it's important for Rick to maintain progress in order to avoid stagnation and ambivalence. She passes along some of her emotional intelligence tricks to help him recognize and regulate. Jenny asked Rick a few simple questions about his new self. Having achieved his goals, Rick mentions he has a renewed love for kayaking, which he did with his father growing up. He now wants to experience this with his son. He is no longer bound by knee pain or a feeling of poor fitness. Rick articulates to Jenny that he wants to set a new goal and take a weekend kayaking trip with his son. Jenny hears the magic words and heads back to step number 1. It's time for her to cultivate intent with Rick's new goal and begin a new journey. Hopefully you're able to connect a few dots after hearing Rick's story. His story did not include every tool and strategy covered in this certification. At any point during the scope of their time together, Jenny could have chosen to weave in any of the other strategies from the Perfect Day Solutions. The behavior model is meant to serve as a framework you can work within. You don't necessarily have to use every single strategy associated with every step. We do know, though, if you make your way from step 1 to step 5, there's a great chance your client will upgrade their life in a realistic and sustainable way.